Hello everyone. Today we'll talk about problem solving and decision making in this video. So how does a problem arises and what mammoth shape it takes if it has not been addressed properly. So we talk about problem solving and decision making in this video. Decision making, remember, is a complex and cognitive process, a thought process, how to choose an alternatives from the available options that you're talking about it. So this choosing of particular course of action, Webster's definition is to judge, probably to settle is another view of decision making. Or, in other words, it's a systematic cognitive process in which there must be an identification of alternatives per se. Decision making situation. The situation in which decisions are made, it can be personal, very personal, clinical, with standard operating procedures, or organizational. So, yes, it can be personal, clinical, or organizational. Personal decision making is familiarity with a part of everyday life. Clinical decision making relates to the quality and competency issues. Remember, quality and competency issues. The third is the organizational decision making, is choosing options directed towards the resolution of organizational problems and that of the achievement of the organizational goal thereby. And that is what organizational problems are all about it. So problem solving is a part of decision making. Remember, a systematic process that it focuses on analyzing a difficult situation. Problem solving always includes a decision making step. So every time you are faced with a difficult situation or you're faced with a problem, perhaps you try to come out of the situation with one of those available options that suits best to your cognitive abilities, and that particular choosing or that particular choice of yours is what I call decision making. Remember, it is a process by which dilemma is identified and definitely corrected thereby. So problem is a present unsatisfactory stress state that needs to be changed to a desired state as soon as possible, or a deviation from the expected standard which prevents the achievement of the objective thereby. Relationship between decision making and problem solving. Decision making and problem solving used inconsistently or interchangeably. The two processes might appear very similar, but in some instances depend on one another and they are not synonymous. So remember, decision making and problem solving, they come hand, hand in glove, if I may say so, but they are not identical. And they may not be synonymous in the first hand, but most of the cases they seems to be going one, they are used interchangeably. The main characteristics or distinction between the two are decision making or may not involve a problem, whereas it involves a selection of an alternative. Problem also has a selection of alternative, but decision making may not be because of only of the problems. Whereas a problem solving involves diagnosis of a problem and solving it, which may or may not entitle the one correct solution, one correct option, one correct alternatives. Most of the time, decision making is absent, or should I say, subset of a problem solving process. There are three main types of decision that a manager can experience in different situations. They can be routine, they can be adaptive, and they can be innovative, as the case might be. Remember, three main types of decision that a manager can experience in different situations, which is adaptive, innovative, and routine. Routine means regular decision, standard operating procedures that goes around it. Adaptive means based on the context of the situation that you take a decision. Innovative is the out-of-box solution that you are looking for it. Routine decision is a decision made when problems are relatively well defined and common, and when established rules, policies, procedures can be used to solve them. That is, let's say, the shortage of your staff. Adaptive decision is a decision when the problems and the alternative solution are somewhat unusual, or should I say peculiar, and the only partially even understood. Example, changing working time pattern or the method of assignment. Let's say in USA we have a daylight saving concept, something which might not be unheard in a smaller country, because smaller US is a big large country by itself, which has three time zones. So you need to understand where it takes daylight saving methods approaches is utilized. That is what an adaptive decision is all about. It innovative decision is the decision made when the problems are unusual and uncommon. Creative solutions are mandated. For example, increasing infections from 50% among the surgical patient, if you want to go around it, as a case by decisions. This needs to be understood. So levels of decision, they can be strategic, administrative, and operational. Three levels: strategic, long-term, administrative, regularly shorter duration, and the shortest possible duration is the operational decision that comes around here. Strategic decisions made by the top executive that are crucial for operations on a long-range planning are strategic because they are defined and focus on major long-term goals, whereas administrative decisions are middle-level managers makes during the administrative decision. They resolve unusual problems, develop a technique to improve functionality and probably effectiveness in that case. So that is what administrative decision is all about. It levels of decision as far as operational things are going. These are nothing but routine decision which has been taken on a day-to-day basis. The middle and the first line manager can make most of the operational decision. Traditional problem solving process is widely used and is perhaps the most well known various model, the seven step format. What are we looking into it? We trying to identify problems. We trying to gather data to analyze the cause and consequences of problem, explore alternative solutions, evaluate the alternatives, select the appropriate solution, implement the solution, and evaluate the solution. Remember, these are the seven steps that goes around here. Identify the problems, gather data to analyze, explore alternative solutions, evaluate alternatives, select the appropriate solution, implement the solution, and evaluate the result. And you see the traditional problem solving method is solved or has been dispersed altogether. Although the traditional problem solving process is an effective model, but it has its own fault lines. The amount of time needed for proper implementation is huge. The process, therefore, is less effective when time constraint has to be considered. Remember the seven steps. It revolves a lot of time consumption. Lack of initial objective setting, setting up a decision goals helps to prevent the decision maker from becoming sidetracked. This is very true. So lack of initial goals as another fault line that needs to be corrected as far as traditional problem solving process is concerned. Now let us understand the managerial decision making process. The managerial decision making process or model should is nothing but a modified traditional plan. Eliminates the weaknesses of the traditional model by adding a goal setting step. Harrison 1981 has delineated the following steps in the managerial decision process. Number one is set objective. Two, search for alternatives. Three, evaluate those alternatives. Choose one of those alternatives. Fifth, implement the chosen one. And the last one is sixth is the follow up and control. I repeat, setting of objectives, searching for alternatives, evaluation of alternative, choosing an alternative, implement that all chosen one, and follow up the action thereby. The managerial decision making process. The managerial decision making process inflows in much in the same manner as a nursing process is concerned. What is it talks about? It talks about anything and everything. The decision making process is all about identifying the decisions. The process is all about assessing, and this can be a management process that goes around here. And we need to understand what do we collect data if required, if not required, leave it. Identify the criteria for decision, as in planning it off. Management process is planning. Identifying the alternatives, probably yes. Choosing the alternative is once you have planned, implement or execute the plan, implement the alternatives and evaluate your feedback as the case might be. And this is nothing but the managerial decision making process that comes around here. So problem solving methods essentially are trial and error method, one solution after another until the problem gets solved. You keep on trying one way or the other, and the trial and error method works good. Experimentation is a theory tested to enhance the knowledge, understanding, or prediction thereby. So that is what experimentation is all about. It. And then we have the affinity map, a tool used to identify the problems as on when on basis. I've already repeated the steps of problem solving. They are the seven. One, first is to define the problem, gather the information, analyze the information, develop solution, make decision, implement the decision, and evaluate the decision as the case might. These are my seven problems that comes around here. So let us identify one by one at a time, defining the objectives as clearly as possible. If a decision lacks a clear objective or an or if an objective is not consistent with the individual's or organization's stated philosophy, a poor quality decision is most likely to happen. Sometimes the problem has been identified, but the wrong objectives are set. Problems can be complex. Problems need many objectives, as stated by Clancy way back in 20 years back, approximately 2003. Second is all about gathering data and curating it carefully. Because decisions are based on knowledge, information is available then and there for problem solver. The decisions must be made. One must learn how to process, obtain, and accurate information. The acquisition of information begins with identifying the problem or the occasion for the decision and continues throughout the problem solving process thereby. Now, question that should be examined in data gathering. Now, what is the setting, the context if you want to go on? What is the problem? Understand the finer details of the problem. Where is it? When is it? Who gets affected by the problem? Is this your problem or somebody else's problem you're trying to address? What actually is happening? And if something is happening, why is it happening in the first place? What are the cause and effect to the problem? Can the causes be prioritized? What are the basic underlying issues? What are the areas of conflict? What are the consequences of problem and which one is very serious? Generate many alternatives. When seeking alternatives, individual needs to expand their horizons. The most common trap managers fall into is limiting the borders of the decision make frames. Absolutely yes. When seeking alternatives, individual needs to expand their horizon because everyone thinks uniquely. Increasing the numbers of people working on a problem increases the number of alternatives that can be generated. Brainstorming is another frequently used technique. The goal in brainstorming is to think about all possible alternatives, think logically. People think illogically primarily because of three ways: overgeneralizations, taking too much of assumptions, taking everything will fall into in its place. So these type of crooked thinking occurs when one believes that because A has a particular characteristic, every other A will also have one and the same characteristic. An example of this thinking is where stereotypical statements are used to justify arguments, to justify decisions. Next is affirming the consequences. In this type of illogical thinking, one decides that if B is good, that but he or she is doing A, then A must not be good. So it's an illogical, irrelevant conclusions, right? For example, if a new method is heralded as the best way of performing a procedure, the nurse, the managers in a unit are not using that technique. It is illogical to assume that the technique currently used in a unit is completely wrong or has gone bad. Critical elements in problem solving and decision making, arguing the analogy. What are we looking into it? This type of applies to a component that two separate entities, two separate concept, and then state because A is present in B, then A and B are all alike in every other respect. An example would be argue because of intuition of place of big part in a clinical and managerial nursing, then a characteristic present in the good clinical nurse would be present in a good nurse manager. However, this is not necessarily true. A good nurse manager does not necessarily possess the same skill as a good nurse clinician. And this is in terms of hospital. In respect to a hotel, a waiter can be a good captain, or not all captains can be a good waiters. And vice versa, not all waiters can be a good captain thereby. Remember, a good captain cannot be a good manager. Restaurant manager talking about. Or should I say a good restaurant manager need not be a good captain in the first place, but they are individually excited. So arguing with the analogy as the case might be, choose and act decisively. Individuals may become vulnerable at this last point in the problem solving process. Why? Because they choose to delay the acting, because they lack the courage to face the consequences of their choices as on when on based basis. For a manager, if a manager grants every employee request for days off, they would have to accept the consequences that one of their decision will lead to certain of short staffing in one of those days because the manager has been too lenient altogether. So you need to be acting decisively and constructively. Remember, decision making in organizations are are all about people. People working in organization are of different categories, different values, different preferences, and this is where the conflict arises. Effect of organizational power on decision making. Powerful people in organizations are more apt to have decision made by themselves or their subordinates that are congruent with their own preferences and values. On the other hand, people wielding little power in organization must always consider the preferences of powerful when they make management decision. Power is frequently part of decision factor, let's say stated by Good in 2003. In organization, choice is constructed and constrained by many factors. Therefore, choice is not always available for all of the people. Decision making, can it be rational? Can it be administrative? Remember, most administrative and rational decision making are managerial in basis. Remember, all managerial decisions are to be carefully curated, scientifically and objectively thought out process. Here, manager makes a decision based on a logic. In late 1940s, Herbert S. Simmons' classic work revealed that most managers made many decisions that did not fit the organizational rationality theory. Simon in 1965 delineated two types of management decision, the economic man and the administrative man. Economic man will look to the implications of finances or money, and the administrative one man who gets the work done and probably at the same time has to look after the well-being of the people, employees. So economic make decision on a very rational basis. Administrative make decisions that are fair enough. Economic has a complete knowledge of the problem and decision standard. Administrative, because complete knowledge is not possible, knowledge is always in fragmented and you try to make a sense of it. Economic has a complete list of possible alternatives. Administrative, because of the consequences of alternative occurrence in the future, they are impossible to predict absolutely and accurately. Economic has a rational system of ordering preferences of the alternative, as in prioritizing. Administrative usually chooses among the very few alternatives and probably not all possible ones. Very few are the best one probably. Economic selects a decision that will maximize the utility value. Did I say of the economic decision, money decision? But administrative, the final choice is satisfying rather than maximizing, making everyone happy and making that nobody is a loser. So in summary, the decision-making process may employ several models, rational or normative, descriptive or bounded rationalities, satisfying and political. Decision-making techniques vary according to the problem and degree to the risk and uncertainty in a situation. With these words, I switch off this videos. Thank you for watching it.